Beyond the Bell, Bloomberg's comprehensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
About 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day, Katie Greifeld and Sonali Basak counting it down to the closing bell. Here to help take us beyond the bell with a global simulcast, joined now by Massar and Tim Stenovec, bringing together all of our audiences, television, radio, YouTube, originals. And Carol,
yes.
Big broad rally on our hands.
Yeah, and it's sticking, right? We're seeing it pretty much hold here in the last few minutes of trading. Having said that, if you're looking for some outperformance, you know I go to an area that I like to go to, and that is the Chinese names that trade here in the United States. Really some outperformance. The Nasdaq Golden Dragon China Index up 3.7% here with just a few minutes to go. But we see China continuing to have troubles, but also take steps to ease those troubles and ease investor concerns. So deposit rate cuts they're considering to boost growth among the banks, and then they're also speeding up some fiscal spending to boost the economy as well. So every day, every 24-hour news cycle, bunch of China stories.
Everything is higher today, Carol, including all the cryptos on the crypto dashboard, despite the fact that the U.S. legal win with when it came to Grayscale's ETF ruling just had to do with Bitcoin. Still, we're seeing Ethereum, XRP higher, Dogecoin. Katie, remember that one?
No, okay. I don't. Wiped from my memory.
I don't know if you heard about this Grayscale ETF ruling.
I did hear about it.
Two of you. I don't know if you guys have been covering this all day.
I saw it somewhere on Twitter. I don't know.
I think I'm out of words, actually.
Well, as soon as I'm going to come back to this after the bells, because I'm really eager to hear what the two of you have to say about this. Because all right. I know it's been a long time coming, Katie.
It's been a long time coming, but let's talk about the equity market right now because we are about 10 seconds away. You can see the S&P 500 going to finish close to its session highs, up 1.5%. NASDAQ Composite doing even better today as some of those big tech names rally up about 1.8%. Dow Jones Industrial getting in on the action. That index, Carol, going to finish about 0.9% higher.
All right, and digging a little bit deeper into the S&P 500, as we've been kind of joking around here, really hard to find decliners. That's because 446 names, so almost all of them in the S&P 500 are higher today. Just about 53 to the downside, and Sonali 4 unchanged.
Yeah, let's take a look at the sectors also because it looks like a lot of green on that screen. You're looking at the auto part of the S&P index up more than 6%. Just take a look at what that looks like. You have semis up more than 3%, telecom services up more than 3%, media, entertainment, consumer durables all up almost 2% or more. You only really have utilities, energy up only about 0.2% on the day. But again, a lot of green on the screen. Very broad-based rally today.
All right, so let's get to some of the individual gainers. There were so many to choose from. I know Elf Beauty, it had its rally. Coinbase, we talked about, definitely jumping after that court decision. So I'm going to go to actually, once again, I talked about the Chinese names rallying here in the U.S. Check out PDD Holdings. It was up more than 15.5% in today's session, top among the NASDAQ 100. In fact, the number one gainer in the NASDAQ 100. This is the owner of the hit shopping app Temu, so it definitely soared. Revenue rose a stronger than expected 66% after the company spent to boost growth at home and abroad to counter a bumpy post-pandemic recovery in China. And their growth, PDD's growth, surpassing many of its major Chinese tech peers. So really some outperformance there. Tesla, check that one out. It was a top gainer in the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500, up 7.7% on above average volume. Dow Jones noting that the company is launching a $300 million AI computing cluster today. This is according to an Oppenheimer analyst. So I don't know, supercomputer news. There was really hard. I couldn't really find anything specific, but take that for what it's worth. But nonetheless, Tesla shares were definitely moving. Best Buy, it was up about 3.9%. A top name in the S&P 500 reported better than expected comp sales for the fiscal second quarter. Analysts like some of the improving sales trends. And then you had Ginkgo Bioworks. That one was up 24% in today's session. The company coming out and talking about its partnership with Google Cloud, allowing it to develop and deploy AI tools for biology and biosecurity. So investors pouring into that one.
Did you guys notice that Carol has 4 gainers today?
I did. I was wondering about that.
I only have 3 decliners. She's like just rubbing it in like it was an embarrassment of riches of stocks that were higher today. And meanwhile, I had to, search far and wide.
Though, Tim, you found some names.
I found some interesting stories actually. The worst performers on a percentage basis in the S&P 500. A couple of truck component makers, starting with Packard, Katie, down 2.7%. They make Kenworth, Peterbilt, and more on the trucking side. And then Cummins, they're the maker of truck engines, they're lower because a report from FreightWaves said that results from major trucking lender BMO showed a deterioration in the credit standing of its trucking customers. Packard finishing down 2.7 and Cummins down just about 1.07%. And then Norfolk Southern down 1.63% today. Late last night, they said a now resolved hardware-related tech outage on Monday would impact its rail operations for at least a couple of weeks. They successfully restored all systems at 7 p.m. Eastern Time yesterday. They said at this time, we have no indication that this was a cybersecurity incident, and they've been in contact with their customers, are going to work to update the timing for their shipments, but shares lower after this news.
Seems like you had a theme today. Things with
Transportation.
wheels.
Things with wheels.
Yeah.
Do trains have wheels?
I think so.
Okay, we'll allow it.
I'm going to Google a photo after this. Let's talk about the bond market, because once again, that's where all the action is in a good way today. Actually, usually for the past month, we've been looking at huge sell-offs. Now you're seeing the opposite. Yields really taking a leg lower, especially at the front end. You take a look at 2-year Treasury yields down by almost 17 basis points, and that buying interest continued across the curve. But it was especially concentrated in the front end, of course, after that JOLTS data that we got this morning. It's going to be really fun to see what we get on Friday from the NFP report. But you add it all together, guys, we're looking at a bull steepening of the yield curve, that 2s10s curve at negative 77 basis points right now.
I mean, you just take a look at where we were yesterday on that 2-year at 504 relative today, back down to 488. And you take a look at that relative to the month, Katie, and we were up on the month about 491, I believe. So even the move that you saw to the levels you are today is lower than the average you've seen all month. And we still have not hit the key economic data points of the week, the PCE deflator and the jobs number. What a week ahead of us still.
This is just the warm-up.
It makes you wonder what the real level is supposed to be, right? When we see kind of significant moves, we see the volatility, we've seen some significant moves, certainly in the Treasury curve. Like, what is really the bottom and top? Something that we kind of keep trying to figure out at this point. Should we get to some earnings?
We probably should.
HPE just crossing the Bloomberg terminal, and let's go right to the outlook. Fiscal year adjusted EPS 211 to 215. It had seen 206 to 214. Keep in mind that HPE did pre-announce, so a lot of this may have been already out there in the marketplace. Fourth quarter adjusted EPS 48 to 52 cents. So it looks like it's widening the range there. That for a beat, the estimate on the street is 50 cents a share, and the company looking at third quarter net revenue of $7 billion. The estimate is for $7 billion. I mean, that's because they pre-announced, like we knew what was happening.
Yeah, and you can see that not too much action after hours. Shares currently up about 1% post-bell. Of course, again, they did boost their full-year adjusted EPS as the forecast, rather, as Carol said. A little bit of a lift. This is a stock that is kind of mid-muddling along this year through today's close, only up about 5.5% for 2023.
So the question is can it leverage all the excitement in AI that we've seen over the last few months? The CEO, Antonio Neri, also the president of Hewlett Packard Enterprise, saying in a statement today, Sonali, quote, demand improves sequentially across all key business segments with particular strength in our HPC and AI segment as customers discover HPE's unique capabilities to power unprecedented levels of performance for AI at scale. Also talking about the strategic shift toward edge, hybrid cloud, and AI delivered through HPE GreenLake platform, and the fact that Neri says it's working.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the net revenue forecast come just in line with expectations, but also free cash flow. The estimate was $2 billion. They still see that will be $1.9 billion to $2.1 billion, so just in range to the point that you're making. This is a largely telegraphed release that we're seeing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And don't forget, we're going to get HPQ a little bit later on this hour. I mean, that's a stock that's actually easily beating HPE this year. It's up about 17%. So we'll see what kind of results we get. It's, not apples to apples. They're different types of companies, Tim.
Okay, I just want to, we only have a couple minutes left, but I promised I'd come back to the landmark U.S. legal win for the Grayscale ETF because both of you two have been covering this so closely. We had Hannah Miller on a little earlier in our program, and I asked her this question, Katie. Why are people so excited about this given how easy it is for someone to buy Bitcoin just, using PayPal, for example?
That's the thing. And of course, I will note that this is just one step in the process potentially to getting to a spot Bitcoin US ETF. It's going to be interesting to see the SEC's response here. But Tim, to your point, this could easily turn into another sell the news event. I've talked to a lot of analysts who say that. If you take a look at what happened with the Bitcoin futures ETF in October 2021, those debuted. We hit an all-time high in November, and we haven't been anywhere close since. So how much left untapped demand is out there is really an open question.
The question of custody, not your keys, not your coin, all of that, I think is an interesting part of the discussion here, because how much safer is it to really be wrapped in an ETF versus just to buy the thing itself? I think that's another massive question. And really, does it just all of a sudden get all these wirehouses comfortable enough to start pitching it to their folks? I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on what the incentive is for them to do that with the risk associated with it.
It's just like they got a little bit of a win, right? In terms of the crypto world that has been so beaten down. And that's why you've seen like all this euphoria. It'll be interesting to see what kind of follow through we have ultimately into tomorrow's trade. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage on radio, TV, YouTube, and of course, Bloomberg Originals counting you down to the close on this Tuesday afternoon. We call it Beyond the Bell. We'll see you again tomorrow.